I'm gonna throw a kick into almost everything, and that's why I was so heavy in the jackknife.
Yes.
That's why I was so heavy in the cheat 7, 1080.
Back 10, yeah.
Yeah, all of it was because I just wanted to, like, at the end of the trick or the move, or even the beginning or the middle, like, hit somebody.
What's up, guys? Today's guest is a former sport karate world champion turned professional stuntman. Please welcome to the JAMCast, Marc Canonizado.
Thank you.
All right, bro.
Thank you so much, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you for coming on, and we have to attack it right away. How do we say your last name? I feel like it's been one of the most mispronounced names in tricking history.
I don't think anybody will argue that, for sure. It's Canonizado.
I feel like everyone in the world says Canonizado.
And they've been screaming it.
Yeah.
Every grands I've gotten, every announcement to ever have me come on stage, it's been Canonizado. I guess it's just it rolls off the tongue more, or the tone.
I've probably said it like that for years too, bro.
Hey, I mean, honestly, it was always been a talking point. So in a weird way, I kind of embraced that.
Okay.
And I let it kind of just be a conversation starter for everything.
And what you were kind of telling me off screen, like, what is the background of its origins?
Well, I'm Filipino, so a lot of our last names are Spanish or from Spaniards.
Yeah, of
so
course.
like we have a lot of Castro was my mom's maiden name.
Okay.
De la Cruz, Canonizado, and then in Span, like when I go to Guatemala or I've been to the Central American countries to do seminars and whatnot, they would do like Canonizado, and I'm like, man, that's probably the real way to say it.
Yes.
So it kind of stuck with me, and yeah, ever since then, man, the name kind of just, like I said, it's always been a funny. Even when I was in school, they would go down the roll call when my name comes up. When they would just say my name, I don't care if there was another Mark in the room or not. I immediately knew it was
You just knew it's me. Yeah.
I'm like, don't even try.
That's so funny, man. And so, like, it's crazy. We've been trying to make this happen for a long time, but we've just always been in different cities because of work.
For sure.
And this worked out because, as people can tell, we're in the new Jam Atlanta, but you call Atlanta home now?
I do. Yeah. I'm here now full time. I've been here for probably about 6 years now, almost a little more than that now.
Crazy.
And I have my son here. So Atlanta really kind of drew that side of my life for the industry as well here more so. LA was great, but, at the time for myself, it just wasn't, when I had my son, it just was difficult.
Yeah.
And then the industry started here. I was close to my side of my origin city, Orlando, Florida. Shout out to Orlando.
Super close.
But yeah, I was super close to there, and now it was like, all right, now I get to still do the same Atlanta work, have a lower sense of overhead,
lower cost of living.
Yeah, right. And then I'm closer to my family, because when I was living on the West Coast, my family couldn't really see him as often as they'd like to. It's quite a trip, obviously.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was young, so now that he's kind of getting to grow up, he sees Florida. He loves Florida now too. He's kind of become like a Florida boy like me. But yeah, man, I mean, Atlanta's home. It's been good. I can't complain about Atlanta. The people here are good. Everybody's working, and it's like a young LA vibe, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's kind of like still emerging in a lot of ways, even though there is a lot of people. Like, we had a stunt audition recently, and I was shocked at how many people came out and had like a baseline level of skills.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I'd say like 10, I was here on Fast 7 maybe 6-7 years ago.
Okay, yeah. When they had like OFS and stuff.
We were at OFS. There just wasn't a lot of people. There were some people from LA that had moved here. And so now it's like pretty crazy. It's like its own hub. You're
right. Honestly, at that time, it kind of felt like the industry was here, but a majority of the people were still kind of being from LA, I guess, and brought over to work.
Totally.
Because I guess, whatever, there was a smaller group of locals. And now, I mean, it's almost feels like it's kind of the opposite to me. It honestly feels like a lot of the guys are flying in from LA, but there's a decent pool of people here now that you could just stay local and pick, and there's a lot of talented, hardworking, upcoming people out here that I'm excited to see what else these people pump out, man. It's good to be amongst that young energy too, bro.
Yeah.
So it keeps me on my toes. I'm always still trying to fight with these guys and train with them.
That's one thing that people probably don't realize is like the age that you are comparative to some of these guys, bro. Because
it's true. It's a curse, dog. It's in this industry, it's funny. It can work for you, but it can also, like, I'll never get hired for a henchman amongst like other guys like what's his name. Some of the taller guys in LA.
Oh yeah.
Like, those guys get hired for
with
that
facial
look.
hair,
Right, full on beard, swole as hell. You got me, and it looks like their little nephew.
Exactly.
So I definitely have that youthful look, but then one day I'm sure, like all us Asians, I'll just wake up and have full on Fu Manchu.
That's what happens. Yeah, we go from like 0 to like 65. Like,
right.
It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, man. But it's been good. I can't complain, man. Again, the facility, we're happy it's here, man, because quite honestly, we needed a facility here that could facilitate everybody's training necessities in one location. And that's what I think is really going to help skyrocket that skill set for a lot of people here. And on top of that, like it did in LA, it's going to bring a mecca of just bringing all sorts of movement together.
That's what we hope, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that's, it's down to the core value, what you guys stand for. So having this here, it's a pretty big thing, and we congratulate you, man. And thanks for bringing it here. And we're super excited now that we finally have something out here that we can really like go and roll with and create some magic, man.
Yeah, we're nervous. Like, we're nervous in the sense that like we know a community exists, tricking wise as well as stunt wise, but it's just obviously so foreign to us because all of us, the majority of us, still live in LA, and we're like, let's take a chance. Let's try to help build up a community out there. Worst case scenario, it was a good learning experience, and at least we like tried to do our part. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, you guys have done more than that for sure. You guys have been a vessel for this industry, man. We thank you again, brother.
Crazy,
for sure, man.
So crazy to think about, man. And more than anything, like I think what's also super crazy to me is like sitting at the audition yesterday, watching Kyle McLean as like an assistant stunt coordinator now.
Bro.
And one of the kids at audition, he was like, he's a younger kid that does circ. Okay. And he sent me a message. It was like, dude, it's really inspiring, like being a tricker and seeing people like Kyle as an assistant now.
Hell yeah.
And what's crazy is like you're one of that generation of like some of the first trickers to break into this entertainment industry.
Oh, yeah.
But not only that, you were one of the first trickers to break into like the tricking scene back in the day, dog.
That's right, baby.
Like
old.
We can't like
OG.
We can't talk about like tricking origin without bringing you up. And so I guess let's go back even before then though. Like how did your martial arts journey start? Like how old were you and what was your introduction?
It's funny, man. I kind of started martial arts almost 6 years old, so like 5.5. And all I could really remember, and quite honestly, I don't remember a lot from my childhood as far as like 7, 8 younger.
Yeah.
But I do remember anything related to martial arts.
Was it by choice that you started martial arts, or?
Oddly, like, I think yes, luckily. Like, Asian parents, right?
Yeah, I was going to say.
And my dad's, he was at the time a martial arts practitioner. He'd be training at the house, kind of like what I do with my son. He's chilling in the living room and I'm in the garage, hitting the bag, training my kicks and stuff like that. And he would do the same. And I guess subconsciously, I thought that was a, quote unquote regular thing, but then a part of that was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of dope. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And eventually he was like, you know what, you're getting old enough and you're doing this. And he would teach me some things at home and he's all right, since I'm busy at work though now because he's first generation American, our family had to kind of put in that grind, so he's like, all right, well, to supplement the time that I can't be with you, I'll put you in martial arts. So
that's cool.
Yeah, man. And at first I was like, oh, cool. All right. I don't know. I honestly don't recall really like having that spark at first.
Yeah.
I guess the way most people would. And then the more I got into it from that first class on, like that intro class, you just kind of go through the works, how they do everything. They teach you how to bow and all the good stuff. And from that point on, I was hooked, man.
No way.
I was hooked. And yeah, from that point on, just started doing martial arts. My goal was to get to black belt.
Yes.
Went through the whole journey just like I'm sure you did with your martial arts and anybody else. And once you got to that black belt, it's like, all right, well, what's next? Like, it was great for what it was. And then you reach that certain level. And we all started fairly young. So in reality, that's a pretty young age still.
Yeah, totally.
And we accomplished so much within that age range. And it's like, all right, well, what's next? And at the time, tricking wasn't really, they were two very separate things.
100%.
There wasn't like martial arts and tricking. Like it was, you either did gymnastics or acrobatics, or you did martial arts. And I kind of was like, all right, well, I've always been a fan of all of it. I don't know why it just, it's some way in my mind, I just didn't understand why it wasn't around. And then I went to the US Open that's still in Orlando, Florida.
Of course.
My dad, through the martial arts schools that he also kind of knew, he's like the soccer dad, you know what I mean? Like he was full on committed to trying to figure out what I was going to be able to do with martial arts. And he just kind of went around, heard about the US Open. He brought me down, heard the Night of Champions, and that was like Mike Chad, John Valera, David Douglas, Butch Marks, Jeffy Kajiri, all the OGs of like even me and all of us now. And these guys were doing stuff that kind of really like, I was like, oh shit, so you can do tricking of some sort, or like movement of some sort that's not solely just middle block.
Stuff. Yeah,
totally. Like, certain self-defense stuff. It blew my mind. I had no idea that stuff it could be involved in what I did and existed.
Okay.
And from that point on, I was hooked too. And that's why I always pay respects to those OGs that really paved the way
for reals
for all of us. They're the ones who really stemmed it, because even when you think about it, when they were doing it, they even did it in film, or like had some sense and of influence in the film and what they were doing even back then. So now, thankfully, through social media and the way we use ourselves to market, we have a much more direct line of getting to that point. Those guys kind of had to really have to work and show something and catch the right eye and be in the right place and work their asses off just to get kind of noticed. So that was kind of the start for me when I noticed, like, man, you can do stuff. So I was like, all right, first thing, I want to do a backflip. Like, I've never done a backflip to save my life, but it's always cool. That was my first trick. And I guess once I kind of like went from backflip and all that, I was like, all right, I get the up and down. Now I want to incorporate what I know into this style stuff. So I saw people still throw flash kicks.
Yes.
I was like, and then seeing all those little variations of what martial arts did to acrobatics, and I guess in flips, really like bloomed in my brain. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna throw a kick into almost everything. And that's why I was so heavy in the jackknife. That's why I was so heavy in the cheat 7, 1080.
Back 10,
all of it was because I just wanted to, like, at the end of the trick of the move, or even the beginning or the middle, like hit somebody or hit something.
Different mindset.
Exactly, brother, for sure.
Now,
And I start to see a lot of that now, and I'm not opposed to any. I don't try to fight the current, but it's just so crazy to see what I guess our generation had the root of a motive in going into creative process of tricking, and what people kind of think of the many best like routes people think of now in style. And I love it because it's like b-boying. Those guys, that's the same platform they're on. Those guys are so diverse in the way they're creative I hope tricking's like that too. And it's crazy to see that our generation really had a lot of different approaches to martial arts being incorporated to tricking, but now we're seeing such an evolution of like even the martial arts side of it now into tricking. Because quite honestly, like, we see the crazy stuff. Kids are doing like jump hooks into weird swing back tucks out of freaking some setup. So it's nuts to see the next level of where it is now. Because quite honestly, I never even thought
right now
was possible.
They're doing like video game type moves now.
Exactly.
But what I think is unique is that, like, the time that you were a part of it, it was almost like you had to almost be in the NASKA or martial arts sport karate scene to be exposed to tricking. Whereas now, like you said, like, social media allows some kids, tricking is their first sport now. Right. Like, they didn't even do a martial art beforehand. Whereas before, it was like, you had to at least know how to do a hook kick to do a cheat 720 kick.
Yeah, man.
Like, you had to know tornado to try to 540,
to know it even existed.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way. And that's, I guess, the part that was crazy to me is seeing that it was really a small bubble back then. And if you could do it, it was like, man, that's crazy. And now it's the same effect, but it's just the bubble is not as small anymore. Yeah, it's definitely, and obviously through the mainstream stuff that we do in our line of work, all through the social media platforms now, it's it's being marketed and put out there way better, and it's great. I love seeing it. And I do hope someday we see it in the Olympic standards.
It would be crazy.
It would be crazy because honestly, with the stuff people are throwing now, I would watch that.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah.
And it's good. I even remember the first time I saw Kim Do throw a sideswipe. I was literally there at US Open, and my dad has the footage still on like the VHS of him recording. And I remember when he threw it, some people got excited, but some people didn't even know how to react.
Yeah, so they didn't know what it was.
Yeah, there was like no like crazy clap or like, oh, like we do now. It was almost, it just blew people's minds in a weird way. It just didn't probably even make sense. And then select few that were like, I probably like Butch or David Douglas at the time, or even Anthony Atkins. Those guys were probably like, oh,
something new.
Man. So I do miss those eras, but it's crazy now to see how dynamic everything has changed.
It's changed so much.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started competing? And when you first started competing, was it traditional forms, or did you always delve into like creative and open?
Honestly, when my dad's hardcore. He's definitely one of those, like, we know. Yeah. And he was always like, all right, you're gonna do forms, you'll do traditional, you'll do weapons, but I want you to do sparring too. Yeah. He's like, I don't want you to be just a show
just
guy.
Just a forms guy.
Yeah, man. So honestly, at the time, I'll be honest, I wasn't really a fan of it. Like, I was good at it. I was good at it, but I just didn't. I guess my mindset and my skill set, I felt personally, was more so in that creative, artistic flips and showmanship, as opposed to the literal application of martial arts.
Totally.
And I guess although I was good at it, I listened, I stayed in it, and to be quite honest with you, if he didn't push me to stay in that style of, or that essence of martial arts, I don't think I would know what I know now, or it would honestly even give me the certain approach to how I tricked.
Okay.
You know, because then again, I thought of it as kicking as a usage or something within my acrobatics of usage to attack. And I think if he didn't give me that fighter's perspective and I stick with point sparring and all that, I don't think I would have had that same mindset. So I did sparring for pretty much, I competed all the way up from, I started at 7 and went through all the way up to, my NASKA days.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, what really got me into all the sports stuff was seeing Paul Mitchell, was seeing John Valero, was seeing Mike Chat, was seeing the flashiness. And that's, sparring to me was kind of like, all right, if I got to do this to be around this, I'll do it. It's fine.
I mean, dude, I got to ask you then, since we're on the topic of sparring.
Yeah.
B-twist round in a fight.
Yeah, man.
There's an old video of you landing B-twist around in a fight.
That's right,
Was that prepped? Were you thinking you were going to, like, what made you try it at that specific moment?
Honestly, it was in that moment, like me and my dad had played around with stuff like that all the time.
Okay.
He was one of those guys who was like, you're not going to be, even when you trick, I want you to be able to apply this for real.
Yeah,
like if you really had to, if you could. And we would drill stuff like that. We would bounce around the garage. He would give me like this tiny teardrop pad and he would hold it up on us, and that would be my signal for an opening to throw. And he taught me, even with my B-twist, to minimize the dip that sometimes people do, the setup. He would teach me to go almost kind of like a somewhat of a angled backside 9 approach. And we would practice it for fun and just never really had a time to use it. And it was my last fight at Diamond Nationals as technically a youth.
Okay.
My next year I was going to move up to as an adult.
Okay.
And it was for the second place because Robbie and all the other guys had already fought for first and they won. And me and this other guy, we were trying to work our way up into the bracket.
Okay.
It was my last fight. After this, I would have basically got second place. So I saw an opening. I was like, you know what, man? This is my last fight as a youth. Why not try it? Yeah. I saw an opening. I baited him in, and I saw it open up, and it was too perfect, and I had to go for it. So I went for it right away, and as I came through, I spotted well, and I just saw his head, and I kicked out around, and it hit the money, and I didn't land it technically only on my feet, so that much of it I wasn't too happy with. But to be honest with you, the lead judge, George Chung, he gave me the 2 points, bro, and I ended up winning the match.
Dude, so crazy.
Yeah, it was funny, and my dad went crazy because he's in the corner behind me going, do it. We've been doing this for so long. Just try it. Do it.
No way.
And I was hesitant at first, but sure enough, man,
dude,
it landed in the right time. And yeah, I mean, and since then I still fought as an adult. I fought from team sparring for straight up, and even did some stuff for All Stars when they were fighting overseas.
Yeah.
So I liked to fight locally, but also fought internationally, because when I was doing seminars in Guatemala and Venezuela, Mexico City, those guys are stellar,
bro,
at point sparring.
Very, very good at point sparring.
For
America
me,
pretty much owned the forums for a long time.
Right. So for me, exactly, when I came over, I didn't want their image of me to just be the flipsy guy. The acrobatic guy that doesn't practically use it in anything. I wanted to earn their respects in the ring too.
Yes.
And thankfully, through, like I said, that going through that fighter mentality, I was able to stick that route long enough in the right time. I mean, I pretty much did it till I got up to about 26, 25, because then I really started, at some point you start making your money in what route more so. And for me, obviously, it was the form side of it. I could do the fighting side of it, but there were so many great fighting guys at that time too. It's like, I could dabble in this and earn their respects as well, and I'm happy with that. Those guys are, they're working their ass off in their own right too to try and make the grands for their income in that weekend as well. For me, it was definitely a fun thing to do. I think it really directly applies to what I do now, and I do miss the competitive world. I just wish that it would have a lot of variety in, I guess, their divisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think what they had going on and what's in place works for when we were growing up. And I think there's such a dynamic growth in martial arts alone, and even in tricking alone, that I think the platforms they have in place for divisions now is too general, too marginalized. It's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I feel you.
I think they should come up with something a little more new and dynamic to accommodate for some of these newer backyard trickers or backyard martial artists who like we said, we had to know someone to learn this stuff, and now the internet's offering so many skill sets for all these guys. I hope someday they find a platform to really. I mean, it's like you with your jam, your competitions. And your tricking competitions.
Yeah.
That's definitely a great route to at least reach out to the groups and try to bring different groups together.
Totally.
Hardcore guys, B-boys, like you had Trickers versus B-boys one time. Like,
crazy. Yeah.
That's great. It's all good in love because it just opens the doors to those possibilities, man. And I think that's where they've kind of let it go a little bit. They kind of got stuck in that old machine, and it's time to really kind of break that down and start really thinking about what we can do new now.
I mean, talking about old machine, you were in some of the first early competitions where they weren't even called tricking exhibitions yet. They were called extreme kicks contests.
Yes,
I remember all the way back to the Charlie Lee Nationals.
Dude. And that was the one, pretty much the one a year.
Yeah, the one a year.
So you had to show out that year. If you really, and you only had, I think, it's so long. But I think you only had like 3-4 passes.
I think so.
To make a note. So you could either do a power move, or it could be a crazy pass, or some bomb of a trick.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. And even before then, it was really like just a training session. You kind of just showed up
and
places
just trained
like this
with everyone,
right
on the side of the rings and stuff.
Yeah, man. But it's true. There was one tournament a year that everybody kind of came together and that's why it was crazy too, because you really found out what everybody's been working on in one blow. There was no watching them train. It was almost like you were seeing what everybody else is seeing for the first time.
Totally.
And I kind of miss those days too, man. They just the idea of not knowing what this person is training or kind of doing. And to be honest with you, that's probably why I'm pretty quiet myself when it comes to social media and training. I'm pretty much a lone wolf, but I feel like it's because it's kind of rooted in when I grew up in tricking. In that, and that's why like guys like Hans. Hans, he impressed me because he sought me out when no one was watching me train tricking. Because I'll be honest, I was starting to get really good. And I would watch on Billy Bylang's website everybody that was doing stuff. And if you obviously had your sampler on there, you were worth something in the tricking community.
Totally.
And I was watching what some of those guys were throwing, and I'm like, all right, I got to cook something up. And this is in Florida. At the time, like on that coast, there really weren't many. It was like me and Danny Graham.
That's it. Yeah.
Me and Danny Graham at the time growing up, that kind of really started the whole tricking scene down there. Yeah. And we honestly had no idea what to even do and start, but we respectfully started our own styles.
Yeah.
And honestly, through that, it just grabbed the attention of Billy. And now seeing Billy and all those guys, if you were able to put a video up on there, and he thankfully brought me up to do his jackknife tutorial. Yeah. And to this day, thankfully, because of Billy, which I appreciate him all the ways, he people still talk about that.
Yeah, 100%, bro.
It's so funny because in my mindset, like I literally got off.
I remember that tutorial.
Doing a competition. Like I literally just did a form, got off, took off my uniform top, put my team shirt on, and he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you mind doing a quick tutorial for me?" And I was like, honestly, heck yeah, man. You're Billy Bylang.
Yeah.
And he's like, just don't have to be crazy, just real quick. And he pulls me into that tiny little hotel.
It's like a hallway or something.
Weird hallway chair room. And we did a tutorial, and he's like, honestly, bro, thank you so much. And he was super sweet. And then from then on, I had no idea that tutorial was going to help that many people kind of figure out the jackknife. Because quite honestly, I felt like me figuring it out with my dad alone, like that was a challenge all on its own.
Totally.
So it was inspiring to see once tricking started getting on a website like that and really starting to bloom. It was like, man, now we could really put out some stuff and be competitive with this stuff and see where we stand everywhere in the world.
What is your secret to jackknife? I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said like don't go too crazy on the first kick or something.
Yes. And I through my obviously evolution of doing it for so many years, which is crazy to think, it's sometimes kids come up to me and they ask about jackknife. I'm like, man, I've been doing jackknife for like twice your time of being alive, dude.
Yeah.
So it kind of hits me really hard now, but honestly, it is the truth. I think when you train, you should focus less on that lead kick at first because timing is key.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of tricking is like that. Regardless of power, I think timing is essential in a lot of what tricking is. So for me, a move like jackknife, although it flows, it's easy to fight the current. I think people in tricking tend to fight the current of like the timing of it all flowing. So for me, I always think of jackknife, it should be no different than a chamber for a cheat 7.
Yes.
And as you work your way of gaining that chamber into a kick, you gradually extend, you start get used to this timing. And then when you figure out the timing, then you can go full blast.
Yeah.
Because now you know that window of opportunity to really excel. And then you can really comfortably now with that generated force, hook kick like a head off of somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So for me, I always have videos too of just random Cheat 7 videos. And when I do it, it honestly doesn't come high off the ground. A lot of it is literally just a single rotation into a hook. So for me, I don't even really have to focus on a lot of the first kick. A lot of the time, for me, it's just focusing on a lot of that first hip rotation into it.
The chamber for
the chamber into it. That leads into the flow of everything else.
Yeah.
So once that's right, then you could do whatever you want. You could jackknife it. You could sideswipe it. You could do anything you want to it.
Well, I think one thing that stood out to me, which was crazy when I finally met you, was for some reason on video and in camera, you looked like super tall. I don't know if people have told you this.
It's because I was probably skinny. Dude, I was lanky, bro.
Because how tall are you in real life?
In real life, I'm only 5'8".
Yeah, which is crazy because in these videos, you almost look like you have these Anise type legs. Where like, I just remember always seeing your kicks, especially when you do like side kick, pop side kick. For some reason, it just read like you were super tall. And then when I met you in person, I was like, oh shit, he's really like our height. But like for some reason in these videos, you just read tall. I guess though also like, not to be rude, but like some of those extreme kick contests, you're going against like Tarada,
for sure,
Will Valentine.
No, true, absolutely.
We're a little bit stockier and a little bit shorter. So
and it's funny because in reality, and aside from like Kim Do, Anise, and all those guys, like there's not really that many tall trickers.
How tall was Kalman?
Kalman was about my height. I'd say he's about 5'8".
He looked taller, I guess.
Yeah, so it was true. At that time, there was definitely not a big group of taller trickers at the time. So it's easy to like have that perception, I guess. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it too was my lankiness, bro. I definitely was more all leg.
Yeah, and in your white pants especially.
Exactly, bro.
You just see these white pants.
Absolutely, man. So a lot of that, I mean, as much as I wish I was taller, a lot of that, it was just a lot of lankiness, man. And I was always a big fan of kicking. So my legs, just always in everything I do in jackknife, cork rounds, hyper hook at one time, like stuff like that. I loved seeing those kind of lines. I thought that was definitely my strong suit. It was more so of an obvious thing for myself. So anything I could do to capitalize on that, like my side kick on both sides into the gainers, into anything with lines that just made sense to other people. Regardless of whatever I was doing, whether in higher difficulty or lower difficulty, it just painted the right picture for these judges. And the crowd, whatever, tricking gathering I was at, whatever jam I was at, that's what it did, And I thankfully was in the days of the earlier loop kick days, and those guys were throwing bombs too, and they all had their unique style. Lou's the same way.
Totally.
His line is that instead of big kicks, he's got his box cutter, but in reality, that guy spins like a top, bro.
He was doing dubs way before.
That's what I'm saying, and that's before it was well documented. He was probably doing stuff in small spaces like crazy in combo. That people don't even recall. So it's stuff like that. I definitely I miss a little bit of the tricking side of it for sure. But it's been great, man. A lot of that competitive side of it, seeing the tricking go from just tournaments to now everyone's doing it. Like you said earlier, now you don't need a prior existence in martial arts or anything. As long as you have a cell phone or social media or something to watch this art, you're in. So it's wild, man.
So I got to ask you this, because for some people I've interviewed on the JAMCast, their first exposure to Anise was that French Open. 03. Was that the first time you were exposed to him too? I
believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. It was definitely our first time. I quite honestly had heard about him before because it was still the days of Bailang, but I had never really seen a video other than maybe his cork, but nothing other than that as far as what else he was doing. But even from that cork, I knew, timing. He's figured out whatever that timing is for his movement. You know what I mean? And to me, that's key. And that's why he was such a king at being able to display so many unique varieties of
crazy tricks.
Because once he figured out that timing, he could do whatever. He had time in the air to do whatever he wanted to do.
He was flying comparative to a lot of guys off of 1 foot.
For sure.
A lot of guys, like back in the days, I even remember like the extreme kick contest. A lot of the passes were round off passes.
Right.
hella round off passes and hella pop passes.
Yep.
But then when Anis came on the scene, he started doing a bunch of just like swings and just one leg takeoffs, and
absolutely, man,
it just looked different,
For sure. And that's definitely when I've heard of Anis, I saw him at French Open perform, and I was like, wow, he's definitely, because to be honest, at the time, other countries weren't really as excelled in that side of martial arts as we were. We were basically the only country. Yeah. We were basically the only country that was doing that style and that level of that martial art. And, these guys pretty much came from just watching us on whatever platform they could at that time, which wasn't much.
Yeah.
And they just went by a self-taught, and I always appreciated a lot of these guys at least being interested in and seeing it as a thing. And watching him come from that side of it and then decipher how to figure out tricking, and watching him perform, I was like, man, this guy clearly, he's figured something out, and he's working his ass off to really make a stamp for himself and his country. Because at the time, again, other than the UK had Ashley Beck, had Chloe Bruce. They had a lot of other people that were great. In reality, in France,
there's no one that I could think
nobody
of
at the time,
then,
and a lot of the times, respectfully, each country too, they didn't really have that Matt Emig, that Marc Canonizado, that Cal Menchoka, that Rudy Raynon. They didn't have that guy. In essence, in their sport,
they're looking for a pioneer, or needed one.
They needed one. So it was cool to see him kind of put the city on the map. Really show out at French Open. I was like, all right, man, he's getting the crowd going. Like, this guy's throwing some bombs. I can really respect that. Heck yeah, because honestly, it pushes us. I loved that tournament because of the hype.
Yes.
The hype was it was different than a gathering too. It was almost like, instead of more like go, 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 it was almost like, oh snap, he put out a good form, or he had some bomb combos in that one.
Yeah.
What are we going to do now? And it was like kind of just trying to display not only your best tricking things, but your martial arts.
Totally.
For lack of a better word.
I mean, one of the most viral videos ever is Steve Trotta's form at French Open. Yeah,
blew people's minds, right?
Yeah.
Just the sheer reaction of everybody in that first French Open, seeing that on display in the country, like it started something.
Yeah,
it got a hold. It was a French Open 2, French Open 3, the Cascade team out in France. Like those guys, like it started a whole thing. I mean, those guys have been around, but it's just like it really brought everybody together in a crazy way, and that's what I really enjoyed about going to that tournament. It was your time to show out in front of the whole world, basically, or your entire community. There was probably someone from that country in respect, showing up to at least even record.
Yeah,
because that's the thing at the time. It's like, oh, you wanted to see what this person was throwing? He's gonna be at that tournament.
Yes.
All right, we got to drive 3 hours.
Watch.
We got to go watch.
Can't live stream it.
Yeah,
Can't watch
there was
IG
no way.
live.
If you weren't there, you weren't there.
Yeah.
You had to go off of what somebody said.
Crazy.
Yeah, man. So Billy bridged the gap for that. Helped us really put that art on the map, tricking on the map, man, and really kind of brought everybody together. And guys like Anis, he's a product of that too. A lot of us, he influenced through that same website, just like the website marketed him, just put him on the map and got everybody in the community to really realize, like, man, all right, we're onto something here.
Yes.
Tricking is pretty awesome. There's something we could really get going with this. It could be up the lines like with parkour.
Totally.
And all the gymnastics stuff, b-boy, like it could really be in that on that level.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man.
I mean, so like obviously Anis took the scene by storm, but he still was pretty much just known as a tricker. He never really won a lot of titles in the NASKA circuit and doing forms and stuff. But comparatively, that was like one of the things you were most well known for, was obviously competing, making stage for weapons and for forms.
Yep.
How did you first get onto, like, was Straight Up your first team?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Straight Up was definitely like my first team that really, and I love Joe Greenhall. Joe Greenhall, he gave me an opportunity when none of the other guys did.
Okay, I was curious about this.
Yeah, man. He saw me, because at the time, I'll be honest, my first time around in the competition world, garbage. I was terrible. It's like you look back and you're like, man, I can't believe I thought that was cool. But honestly, he saw below that or underneath all that, and he said, at least this guy, he's training every day.
Yeah.
He talked to my dad. He kind of got an idea who I was a little bit. Yeah. He saw that there was that ethic in me.
Yeah.
There was even that mindset in me as far as like I wanted to be there. So I may not be there now. It may take me some time, but best believe when I'm not here, I'm working it. I'm training it. I'm on the grind. And then my dad, like people in the circuit, they know I worked 6 days a week, dog, training every day, pretty much. Like he converted our whole house to a living room with a rug over top of like some cement or linoleum floor or whatever. So we trained 6 days a week. The only day off I had was Sunday. And even then it was like schoolwork and all that good stuff. So with him, it was 6 days a week grind until you can stop. And then even then, to be honest with you, by then you have something to live up to and, you know, something to be. So yeah, man, I mean, Joe Greenhall gave me he approached my dad. He was like, hey, I'm really interested in your son. He's very talented. And I think he's got potential. He's definitely got what it takes to be one of the top guys here. And he offered me a good deal to be a part of Straight Up. And he, above all, was one of those guys, if I was in a rough patch in fighting, or, you know, some guy's cheating a little bit or maybe hitting a little harder or a little late, and sometimes he's one of the guys that I want in my corner that was almost ready to punch that guy's face in for doing the same thing, yelling at the ref to tell him to do his job. And that's the kind of guy I've always been okay with. And a lot of people think Joe, you know, rubs him the wrong way. So he can be a little brash, little rough, but when you really know him and you really know what he's about, the people he cares about, how he handles them, he's definitely a guy you want on your side. He's definitely a guy that's going to look after his own. He's definitely not going to let his team and his people go unnoticed, and he's a hardworking guy himself. So he definitely gave me my first shot, and that's why I stayed with them for so long.
I was going to say, you were on there for a long time.
Pretty much my whole career.
Yeah.
Pretty much my whole career. And then really at the point to pretty much the only thing left to do was do the Paul Mitchell team.
Yeah.
You know, and I love Paul Mitchell. I will never say anything bad about Paul Mitchell at all. I love Paul Mitchell to death. It's always been a goal of mine when I first started martial arts.
That was everyone's goal.
Yeah, exactly. That was everyone's goal. You saw all the OGs.
Yeah.
And if you were worth something, if you were dope, even as a spar, if you were a good fighter at the time, you were Paul Mitchell. Yeah. You know, there was a caliber of respect that you gained from being amongst that group of elite martial artists of this art.
Totally.
So, and, you know, even a lot of those guys, to me, were on that team, paved the way in the tricking world.
Yeah.
So aside from just the martial arts world, they were doing stuff in the tricking world too. So for me, I was like, man, if you were on the best of both worlds of that, that's pretty. I mean, you know, I love Jimmy Pham. Jimmy Pham to me was like old school, man, bro.
Yeah.
Suave to the T, dog. Totally. He just had a stage presence about him, and that's kind of why I wanted to emulate people like, oh, you know, you don't look. It looks like it floats so much, or you know, it was almost a curse. So like when you're competing against someone like Marcel Jones, for instance, you know, that guy's he's harsh, he's raw, you know, he's hitting hard. And then you got someone like me that's a little more finessed. People tend to go about the martial art route and loved his style.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't blame them because it's true.
Totally.
So that's why it was definitely one of those things, man. It's like seeing, all right, well, those generations and that style of your approach, it all relies on your look, and that's why I stuck with a lot of the kicks. I stuck with a lot of the lines and the movement. Okay. So it's definitely Joe helped me really market myself. He put myself out there. He helped me get my feet under the ground and get out there in the competition world. And through that, you know, going to Paul Mitchell, they thankfully did so much great things for me. They definitely supported me in a lot of ways and helped me branch out and do team forms, which I had never done.
Yeah.
You know, originally I started off doing internal power team intensity. I was doing a demo team.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how I started in reality.
Totally.
And then, you know, now I'm finding myself in team forms where I've had to do forms all by myself. And now I'm having to have a teammate.
Yeah.
Move the same and have the same mentality and creative process. And it was definitely of its own perspective of a challenge in its own.
Yeah.
So it was cool to let them give me that opportunity as well to go that route, expand anything else I could do in my career. But unfortunately, after some time, pretty much short after that, I started doing the biz.
Yes.
I already had the bug, man. Like quite honestly, through doing the industry anyway, martial arts, you know, like the OGs, they left to go do it too.
Totally. Yeah.
So for me, that's always been a bug. I've always been a fan of film. And to see them go, and I was like, man, I got to try this now while I'm young. I can't wait too long.
Yeah.
And definitely like regret it. So I was like, all right, let's try it. Turned around and.
What was your first job?
My first job, bro, was probably something you gave me. It was, you know what? It was the, what was it for that, 1,000 Ways to Die.
Oh my God, 1,000 Ways to Die. Yeah.
That's what it was, man.
Holy crap.
Yes, bro. And that's why, again, I will
Spike
always.
TV, yeah.
Yes, brother. That's why I'll always freaking remember that and always be grateful to you, bro.
Crazy, bro. Yeah, I remember. I did a couple of those episodes too way back.
Yeah, and that's why you were like, man, you had probably some other things going on so much at the time. You were like, yeah, all right, I know Mark's, he just moved here. Yeah. He's probably looking for anything at this point.
Totally.
And you were like, yeah, bro, you want to do this thing? I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah.
No way. That's crazy, dog.
Yeah, man. So yeah, and that was the start of everything for me, man. I was like, man, all right, cool. This is what it's like. I started learning the ropes. You were definitely a good mentor in telling me what to do, how to really get your name out there. So yeah, man. I mean, flash forward since then, here we are. We're doing this thing now. Life changes so fast. I mean, even as we're talking in the timeline of tricking. So it's definitely a wild thing to see, man, the longer and you're in it. And quite honestly, flash forward now, I've been in this industry for a long time now, right? Too.
For a long time, yeah.
So it's crazy how much we did the tricking side of our lives and then now the industry side of our lives. And it's all felt like a flurry, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, bro. And I hope it doesn't slow down.
Like dating back to your martial arts career, is there a tournament that you're most proud of or an achievement that you're most proud of over the whole course of it?
I would honestly say for me, one of them for sure is Diamond Nationals, because that's at the time for even our OGs, that was kind of the Super Bowl of our circuit. So if you got a diamond ring from Diamond Nationals, you did everything, and not only just that tournament, but the year.
Yeah.
Because it was also like a thing amongst your community, your altogether points of the season.
Yeah.
So for me, that was definitely one that if I won that would definitely be a notch on the belt to be like, all right, man, that's a chapter you can close of your bucket list alongside with Paul Mitchell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, aside from that too was the Warrior Cup.
Oh, okay.
AKA, yeah, man. Just because it was such a unique trophy. Obviously. But at the time too, they did it, the form style of it, almost fighter style. So it was elimination rounds.
Oh, wow.
You would compete as like, if you weren't registered with their circuit.
Yeah.
You would compete as just a walk-in.
Okay.
To even qualify.
Okay.
You win that round. I think, I don't know. I honestly can't remember. I feel bad if I fuck it up, but it's like top 3 of that division move on.
Yeah.
Then those 3 get to go against the normal guys.
Okay.
The members, the seeded, kind of like the NASKA guys.
Yeah.
And then if you made it past that, then you got on stage. Then you go on stage and you go against everybody.
Wow.
And, female, male, you go against everybody. And then when you won that, you were the winner.
Make it.
And you got the cup.
No way.
So for me, I like that. I was a big, like I said, man, during my forms times growing up and really trying to make a name for myself, I was really competitive.
Yeah.
So for me, my dad would train. He's like, I want you to be able to do 8 forms back to back, full intensity.
8 forms?
That's
bro. Crazy.
He wasn't playing.
Yeah.
He was not playing. And honestly, at the time, it was tough. But I really learned to embrace that challenge and kind of how it translates to everything we have to do now to obviously pump and grind and stay in shape and stay relevant. So for me, it was definitely a hard thing to be able to learn how to gauge the two. Like, all right, work hard, but also learn now as a family guy, cut back some time, hang out with the little man, do that stuff too. But yeah, man.
Did you have the chance to do any other sports growing up or no?
Honestly, no. That's,
karate,
6 days a week,
that's
grinding out. It's like, man, no time. And that's why I wish like I did little things on the side. There was a time where I was doing basketball.
Okay.
Basketball was a big thing for me, and I'm actually seeing that a lot in my son now. He loves basketball.
Yes.
But basketball was a thing for me, and there was one point I almost quit martial arts to do basketball.
No way.
And my dad, being as funny as he is, he
wasn't having that.
I'll be honest, bro. You're going to be 5'8". He's like, let me go ahead and nip that in the butt for you right now, man.
Yeah.
So he definitely told me, you could do it if you want, but it's going to be a challenge, basically.
Okay.
I wouldn't advise it. You're good at martial arts.
Great.
Stick with martial arts. And, I was a little hesitant. He brought me to U.S. Open. I was like, all right, I can stay. There's some good stuff to be done here. 100%. I think I could do this.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So wild. And so, like, looking back on, like, your competition career at all, is there anything that you wish you would have achieved, or were you satisfied with it? Because
I was honestly pretty satisfied.
Yeah, I only asked that because you competed to a really late age.
Yeah,
a lot of people nowadays hop out after the 14 to 17-year-old division.
I will agree.
Some
yeah,
don't
that's
even
true.
transition to the adults anymore.
That's also true. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it definitely is a bit of a generational gap between the adult generation now. But yeah, I mean, I stayed in it for a long time, man. Yeah. I really, at the end of it, I did feel like I had done everything that I could have. Because quite honestly, even before the competitive goals that I had set, I had already traveled the world teaching tricking.
Workshops.
Thankfully, you know, I was blessed enough to be able to be a part of a generation and learn enough skill sets that, you know, thankfully I got to share it with the world. And that's honestly, if at the end of the day, when I look back on it, that's what I'm most excited about, is that not only did I get to do a certain level of martial art and tricking, I actually got to travel the world and trying to share that with people, just like I'm sure you get a chance to too, you know? And for me, that's goal one, man. Like that's at the end of the day, that feels a lot better than how much I make doing those things. You know what I mean? Or any other materialistic goal. For me, it feels great to know that at the end of the day, I was able to try and bring it to thousands. You know, and that's the goal, bro. And I don't want to stop teaching at all. I definitely think there will be some side of myself eventually that will still be in that essence of teaching. I'm still focused, obviously, a lot on what I got to do now. But I mean, when I left competitions, I knew it was time, because again, it was like all right, you've done that. What's next? Just like I felt when I had got my black belt. It was like that all over again. And thankfully this came about. You know, this and you giving opportunities, and a lot of the other coordinators I've thankfully been able to work for.
Totally.
It definitely opened up a new challenge for myself that even to this day, I don't even really see a cap. There's always something you could do in this job.
Yeah, for real.
You know, and that's honestly why I like it. I think I'm made for it. I definitely want to, I'm in this for a long haul. I definitely want to stay in this industry as long as I can, because it's never got a cap to me. There's always something that you can master. So
comparative to the 6 days a week as a child, how many days a week are you training now? And having someone that had been tricking for, you know, over 2 decades, how is your body holding up?
That's funny, bro. It's true. I still train. I train probably, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, if not 6. Wow. But you know, honestly, I just try to I spend a lot of time with my kid. That's why I also try to incorporate my training with him as well.
Okay.
But yeah, man, I mean, a lot of that time, if I'm not training, I'm just spending time with him. I'm just catching up with him and hanging out with him around here and enjoying everything he's got going on. Me and him play basketball because he loves basketball. But aside from that, tricking in general, I'll be honest, I haven't had to do anything related to tricking and work that I've done lately. There's been a few things here and there. Like, I'll trick my general stuff, obviously, corks, Websters, illusions, beach twists, gainers, flash kicks, all the round off stuff, even some groundwork. I'll still train, but I haven't really like tricked in a long while because I've said this to some of the guys here too, is because, you know, you have a skill set that gets you in the door, and you kind of make a name for yourself. But then after a while too, there's other skill sets and facets that you need to excel.
Totally.
You know, and you reach a certain level where you got to be more than just that tricker guy. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm starting to begin down that journey of being more multifaceted.
Totally.
Definitely not just that tricker guy. I definitely don't want to be known as just the tricker.
Okay. At
the end of it all. So for me, I'll still train, you know, tricking 3 days a week, sometimes even 2. I definitely don't do it everywhere. I honestly do it at my house by myself within my own lone wolf den. But I mean, the body, it definitely has a recovery time.
Okay.
It's the timing is still there for myself, but it's definitely a lot of the wear and tear and the recovery time of having done that move, let's say. For, like we said earlier, decades, in a way. So it's almost like your body after a while, it's like, I guess, like a pitcher's shoulder would throw out after a while. You know, it's like you've done that like full speed, so many varieties of versions of it, just so many times, so many years, that it just, your body is almost like, man, I'm gonna take my time to recover from this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I feel good above all. Like, thankfully I don't have any like major injuries, knock on wood. But hopefully that I can keep that going. But, you know, the usual stuff like that, like wear and tear, the recovery time, a lot of those little tweaks here and there. I am starting to get a little more back pain here and there. But other than that, man, I think a lot of that, the reason why I also stay active is my son. I'm thankful to him that he keeps me busy. I'm that dad at the playground that plays with them. He'll be running around the playground. We'll be playing tag, so I get to work on my parkour. You know, so it's like stuff like that. Thankfully, it keeps me young. I mean, shoot, I don't run after them as long as I used to, but I mean, a lot of it is definitely he keeps me young in a sense of like, all right, you got to stay active, you got to stay flipping in a sense, you got to, because aside from even the film industry, I think it's a good aspect to stay young with him because he's going to enjoy that side of me. And you know, he's not going to have other friends that have dads that are probably going to do half the things that I would do with him. So it's cool, man. I definitely I'm interested to see what's going to happen past a certain age for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's why I think I'm on that road of, all right, what are you other than a tricker?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like that chapter was a big chapter of your life, but you're done with that now, in a sense. You know, like you've kind of been there, done that. What's next?
Do you still have your vertical side kicks, or how's your flexibility?
I have
stretch?
a somewhat vertical. It's definitely not as like 180 as I used to, but I can definitely do above head level. I still do it every day. I still train wall kicks every day, slow, fast. I do my point sparring drills where you slide and you kick.
Yeah.
I guess back in our day, like machine gun kicks, they used to call them.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I still do that stuff to stay. That honestly, that style of training is what I do more so. Along with boxing, if I do stay rooted in martial arts, it's honestly stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, it's stuff that's martial arts, really everything else that's not tricking.
Totally.
Because to be honestly, like we said earlier, I only had time for sport martial art.
Yeah.
So thankfully now that the job and the opportunity of time now gives me a chance to learn all these other martial arts, it feels great because again, it fizzles that like, hey man, you there's a new thing you can learn.
Totally.
It kind of makes me feel good to feel like a green belt or a blue belt again, or you know, like just super novice.
Yeah.
It feels good to just be in the unknown. So for me, between that and then everything with the film industry, it's a good place for me to be because it never feels like I'm stopping.
Yeah.
And I love it, man. And that's so I stay rooted in martial arts. I still stay rooted in tricking. I have all my love for all that. But I guess I just stepped away naturally because it just feels like there's other things I can do.
Yeah.
I'm worth more than that.
And then even though you stepped away, do you still keep up with the current scene? Do you see the stuff that's going on?
I'll be honest, I don't. Unfortunately, like I will occasionally. Like I'll see stuff on Instagram. I'll see the viral stuff.
Yeah.
Which is dope. Like it's amazing. Yeah. But I honestly, I couldn't name.
That's crazy.
5 people.
Wow.
If I had to.
Have you seen Shosei stuff?
I have.
Okay.
And he's amazing. You know, and stuff like that. I've definitely seen his stuff doesn't go unnoticed in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it's not like I live under a rock when it comes to that world, but I guess just because of the way my mindset shifted towards film and its purpose, it's also taken that step away from that. Yeah. I guess in a mentality. But every now and then I do get curious and I'll watch. It's funny because I love watching like Valu and all those guys, and like I'll watch a lot of those guys still in those generations because I still like their style. Yeah. I think those guys still also had unique styles in their generation. So not to say that these guys don't now, but I honestly, it's almost so crazy that I'm almost like, man, how do I compute all this stuff happening
it's
at
overload.
once?
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow, these guys are throwing some bombs in one foul swoop as opposed to like in sequence in a way.
Totally.
So it's nuts, man. I definitely should keep up to par with more, but yeah, like I said, and unfortunately it's just I'm so directed and driven and trying to establish even my own footing in where I'm at now that I don't want to say it sounds counterproductive to go back to that mentality, but every now and then I like to try and just stay focused on my new ventures, I guess you could say.
So what is the final goal now, like career-wise? Like obviously, do you see a timeline as far as performing is concerned? Do you have aspirations of coordinating, or do you just enjoy being in front of the camera?
I honestly do, man. It's funny. It's like I enjoyed being in front of the camera, I guess, on NASKA, and now I really enjoy it here where I'm at now. Like I did with James Young. Thankfully, he was giving me an opportunity with Danny Hernandez and Don Tai to do Gray Man with Danush. And that to me, that was one of the highlights of what I've gotten to do yet, because it really allowed me to do what I do in my movement and in style and portray even as someone that's slightly different than me and Danush. Totally. So it was cool to have that feeling of having a say in a character, but also being rooted in something and trying to find myself as a performer. Because I honestly think that's where I'm at now. I'm a good performer, but I feel like I still have places I want to find myself as a performer. And I feel like as I do that, through the more stuff I do, and I'll start to get down that line eventually of standard as far as where I want to be. But coordinating does sound like something I do want to do. It is something I do want to do, but I'm invested in this industry so long haul that I feel like it's inevitable. Yeah. You know, and I don't want to sound like it's naive or anything or shallow, but for me, it's just like, if you're going to do this industry for real and you really want to do film, because again, that is a question. Totally. Everyone wants to do film, but you really want to do film? Yeah. You know, like when we get into it to a certain standard, that passion kind of goes away. Yeah. You know, just because we're so exposed to everything, the back work, the just everything that goes into it, it takes away from the performer side of it.
Yeah.
And I love the performer side of it. I don't want that side of it to do that to me yet.
I totally get it, bro. Aaron Tony, my business partner, he hung on forever. I kept asking him, when are you going to coordinate? When are you going to coordinate? He's like, I don't want to yet. I love performing.
Yeah, bro. And I admire that. I really do, because I feel the same. He's got a gift. We all have a gift in that sense of like the tricking world, the sport martial art, parkour, b-boy. We all have that physical gift that I think that if you don't almost live it out to, I don't want to say the end to where you're having to be carried off,
totally.
But like to the end of where you think you could honestly sit back within yourself and be like, all right, you know what? I feel like I've done a good amount. I think until I get to that point mentally like I did in NASKA, I don't think I'll step back yet, because I feel like there's so much out there, especially now. Like we see all the waves of new things coming out even now, you know, and all the stuff with that we can do with film now the right way.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of that creativity can happen, and I feel like I'd be missing out in that time where I could really create and be part of something like that if I were to step back soon. You know, and again, the coordinating, to me, I'm in this for the long haul. Everything after that, I think honestly the end game for me would be producer, director, obviously. Like obviously a lot of the head stuntmen that are doing things now, big things now, paving the way for all of us, just like the guys paved the way for us in tricking. It's like it cycles around and around, and it depends on how you look at it. And for me, I know that that's the end game for me through what we're going to achieve, starting with my physical.
Yeah.
You know, because again, at the end of the day, those guys started with being known as being amazing stuntmen. Yeah. And for me, that's kind of where I want to start. It has all its specifics underneath of that category, but for me, being just at root a good stuntman and then branching out from there, I'm obviously stepping behind camera now too, trying to work on filming a lot more. Thankfully, being in LA with all you guys, I got to do stuff with Vlad and Emmanuel and watch the indie world. Yeah. You know, and all those guys are doing great now. Malai and all that, like,
it's crazy.
You know, or those Jimmy and all those guys, they're doing great. Yeah. You know, and for me, that's definitely one of those things where that's also the route that obviously comes next. You know, all right, you're a great performer, but can you now step behind camera and make that picture happen behind camera and shoot it like this?
Is Georgia forever home?
I honestly don't know. Okay. I do love it here. I don't know if it's a forever home. To be quite honest with you, if I could be somewhere, it would be LA.
Really?
Yeah, it would be LA. Okay. I would come back. I want to stay close to my son.
Yeah.
So I have to stay rooted here for a little while. Yeah. But, you know, once he gets to a time where maybe I could be there, or, you know, there's an opportunity where he could be there too, I think that's a route I would more so go, just because I do miss that vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I miss having that ability to wake up and you can make anything happen that day.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. You know, in our industry alone. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I honestly miss that vibe of feeling like you could make something turn around. You can make something for yourself in that industry. And it is out here too, but it's just different. Yeah. You know, it's definitely starting to grow a lot here, and I'm happy for how much the industry has really flowed and, you know, flourished out here, because
totally.
You could go certain little areas here and start running the film industry people. You know, there's little click areas where everybody's in the industry, and you could be training at the park and run into someone else that's also a stuntman.
Yeah, totally.
And that's, to me, when I first moved here, even, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
You know, if you told someone you were in film here, they're like, oh, okay, and they had no idea.
Now there's a whole film industry.
Now people get it. They're like, oh yeah, there was some filming over across from my house the other day, shut down the street or something like that. It's honestly, it's everywhere now. Yeah. It really has become really intertwined within the culture here. Yeah. So it's crazy. I do love Atlanta. I don't necessarily want to say it's my forever home, but it's not a bad place to grow up my kid as well.
Totally.
I love this place for Kyson. It definitely gives him a good opportunity to have some great education. It definitely gives him good exposure to stuff out, you know, that I wish LA could offer comfortably.
Totally. Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff I definitely love for now about it, and since he's happy, I'm happy.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right, hell yeah. And so this question I ask everyone: where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Man, 5 years from now, I'd say honestly, 5 years from now, I'd want to be a good fight coordinator for something something at least respectable.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say budget, because in reality it's not really, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I just want to be a part of something as a fight coordinator that has some good value to it.
Okay.
And I definitely want to do that, and have, you know, at that point, hopefully, I'll even have 5 years of amazing fight credit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Along those 5 years of waiting. So, and then 10 years from then, honestly, I would like to be a good second unit coordinator.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to be, again, within that same respectable value of the next 5 years of, it doesn't have to be anything amazing of a film, but at least my line of work really displays the skill set that within that 10 years of being a second unit coordinator, I've learned a lot and the right ways and the good things. And there is some skill set to me that's aside from just being a tricker.
Yeah.
So hopefully by that time, I'll definitely have some stellar performances under my belt. I'll at least coordinated something respectable. And then within the next 5 years after that, hopefully by the time my second unit, I'll have something at least good within then, man.
Yeah. Crazy.
So we'll see, brother. Yeah. And it's honestly, that's what the thing about this line of work is too, is that could all be 10-year timeline and that could happen in 2.
Yeah. 100%.
It could happen in 5. It could happen in 20. You just never know.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of like it too, because it's not like I used to know. All right, I knew I'm gonna on Wednesday I'm still gonna go train.
Yeah.
All right, on Thursday it's sword, and then it's just that breaks that thing, and I honestly I like that. I like the fact that I may never know what I will be in, but at least I have those in place as far as like a standard.
Yeah, it's not a defined path at all.
Right. So it's been fun, man. I hopefully everything else. Hopefully soon we get to work on something together, man.
Crazy.
Because I don't think we've had that luxury yet, bro.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time with some of my friends. I'm like, damn, we haven't worked together yet. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. It's been. I mean, I honestly can't put a finger on something that we've been able to, but I'm sure at some point we will, bro.
Because it's either one or the other. It's either A, they need one Asian, or it's like there's these massive calls where there's 50 of us.
Yep.
Yeah, so
that's it, man.
It'll happen hopefully on one of those,
I know, man. We'll see. But hey, either way, it'll be either me hiring you or you hiring me.
Which I'm down for.
Hell yeah, man.
At this point in my career, I tell people, they're like, what do you do? Like, I'm like, I just want to do cool shit with cool people.
That's it, man.
I don't care what it is anymore. I don't know. I've done a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Checked a lot of things off the bucket list. Not to say that I still don't have other goals.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just whatever comes now. I'm just kind of stoked with it. Like I just let it all kind of come to me.
Yeah, man. And it's honestly, I'm the same way. To me, I'm like, I just want to do not only good stuff, and it doesn't have to be made. Because even I tell people all the time, sometimes the shit shows that I did were freaking fun because of the people that were on it.
That's the thing, is if you're with the cool crew,
yeah, like if you were sometimes, maybe you had to lay dead for 12 hours, but at least you were with fun people. Like something about the group you were with, made it fun. And honestly, I still think about some of those jobs to this day because I've had some jobs that are great, but I had a terrible time. Or same. It just was a different vibe.
Or I was alone. I felt alone.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's like if you're doing this line of work, that should be, above all, pretty important, man.
Yeah.
Especially the more and more you get into it, the higher up you get, it gets super easy to get caught into that other side.
Totally.
And it's very weight-bearing. It's exhausting. I've seen coordinators age in like 2 years.
Yeah, same.
What looks like.
Same, bro. Yeah, it looks like a decade, yeah.
I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow. You must be under a lot of stress.
Yeah, quality of life is important. That's something that I've learned. I used to just put my head down, say yes to everything, and I lost a lot of time.
Yeah, man.
One thing you can't get back.
Absolutely.
I lost a lot of time where I was like, damn, bro, like half of my dog's life, I wasn't even in the same state.
That's and that's a trip.
When
you really think about it, it's crazy because it's a life. It's your life. It's your relationship with it. It's just an animal at the time, but at the root of it, it's someone in your life. It's something that you hold valuable.
Totally.
So for when you really think about it in that time measurement, you're like, man, when I am on set for 6 months in some godforsaken place, I do want to at least be around good people or like a good energy at least, so that I have some kind of saving grace.
Yes, 100%.
Because we know that we've been in those positions too, where that's honestly was a saving grace. There was just, thankfully, the homies were there.
We could be miserable together.
Right.
Yeah.
And at least we'll be all right. Yeah. Because I mean, keeping your head above water it gets hard, especially the higher up you get, the more you start being in control of things or not in control of things in some ways. Yeah. So it's a tough industry to be in, man. It is fun, but it definitely has its hardships.
It can take its toll, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying the day playing aspect now. I used to be a feature guy that would just be on runs, and that was a blessing. Honestly, I missed the money of that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
But I like the somewhat normalcy now of like, oh, hey, I'm off on a Tuesday. I could just like do some errands,
Right.
like maybe run to the beach if I want to.
Absolutely,
go
man.
have lunch, you know, like
Yeah.
yeah.
It becomes hard to balance out your choices of, do you want to take that time off or do you want to excel?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and honestly, it's a tough gamble because it gets harder to choose between the two sometimes.
Yeah.
For me, it's just that, like, all right, do you want to do that job or are you going to miss out on some time with your son?
Yeah.
You know, and for me, that's kind of where I'm at in my age now and in my career is a lot of that as well. It's like, all right, I could take this great job.
Yeah.
But that means I'm going to be gone for 5-6 months from my son. And, you know, I'm never going to get that back. He's at that age now where
it's pretty crucial time.
he's pretty crucial, you know. And
he's very aware at his
exactly.
age. Yeah.
Super aware. And for me, I don't want him growing up thinking that I'm only just gone most of the time, like we say. So we'll see, man. And that's what trying to figure out that balance. That's the hardest part of this industry right now for me.
Yeah.
Is trying to balance those two. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Dude, super stoked to see where
Thank you
it
again,
goes,
brother.
Man.
It's been an honor, man.
It's so crazy to like I said, to look back on all these things, like watching videos of you before I even met you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Heck yeah, man.
we were like we mentioned at the start of it. Like,
well, that's what's funny, bro.
videos,
Yeah. When I first met you, it felt like even though we had never physically met, like we already,
connected.
we already kind of
100%.
knew each other already.
Same.
It was funny.
It's so weird. It's like a very small knit community, and we're really blessed that we were at a time when it was smaller knit, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where you did kind of like know certain people, and even in the early 2000s, like even into the late, like before everyone moved down, and like between 2008 to 2012 to LA.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Like we all kind of were taking off around the same time and trying to discover ourselves. And
for sure. And that's the key thing. We were all just trying to discover each other's routes.
Yes.
It's like, all right, his road, my road.
Yeah.
Like, how do we make it through this maze, man?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
It's crazy.
You know? And even then, we thought we knew.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a heck of a journey, bro. And that's why now looking back on all of it, I'm like, man, I'm grateful for any time we have together, to be quite honest with you. Because even these guys now, there's some guys that I met in in Atlanta here for the first time. Thankfully, through the test of time, they're getting work now like crazy. In those days where even we were hanging out and training are gone.
Yeah.
So it happens. It happens fast, man. It happens easy. So I'm thanking you again. I'm grateful for taking the time to have me on here. And
dude, thank you.
It was only a matter of time,
Yeah, it took a couple years, but we made it happen.
Hey, baby, better late than never. That's always been my style.
100%, man. Well, no, more than anything, man. Like I said, I appreciate you making the time to come down here. It's cool to like share your story and how integral you've been in the tricking community and stuff like that. And it's really cool to watch you venture into this next stage of life as far as a stunt career, and hopefully we'll get to work together soon.
Heck yeah, soon, baby.
Oh yes. So before we get out of here, can you look into this camera and tell people where they can stay up to date with you, your personal journey, everything you got going on?
Yeah. You can honestly catch me on Instagram, official Marc Canonizado. Other than that, I don't really have any websites or anything like that, but Facebook as well, at Marc Canonizado.
Hell yes. With that being said, guys, please be sure to hit that like button, comment, subscribe for brand new episodes each and every week. Join us every Monday for Jam Breakdowns and every Friday for a brand new JAMCast, interviewing influential members of the movement community like Mr. Marc Canonizado himself.
Yeah.
So funny, bro. So with that being said, guys, gotta give one more very special shout out. Thanks for coming through, dog. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother Us.
Hell yes.
Thank you, guys.
And as always, guys, coming through, I'm your host, Travis Wong. Thanks for joining us here on another JAMCast. Till next time, we'll see you all soon. Peace.